Council. And before we start our meeting tonight, we're going to have a swearing-in ceremony, so all the new councillors can be sworn in, take their place as village councillors. And I'm going to call on John Herring here to be our Commissioner of Votes, to basically notarize our signatures as we swear our oath of office. Now, they got me down here as the first one, so I guess I'll start here. And
there's an option between swearing the oath and affirming it. You'd rather not swear on the Bible.
right, so when you get to that part of your oath, just remember to pick either to swear or to affirm. Okay.
I'll just read what I was given. As confirmed by the returning officer of the 2021 municipal election, successful candidates acclaimed as mayor of the village of Fort Simpson for the period of 2021 to 2024 is Sean Welly. The successful candidates elected as councillors are Rosemary Gill, Moss Hassan, James Tetzel, Troy Bellefontaine, Kyle Christensen, Liza McPherson, Leslie Wright, and Cynthia Browning. Community governments are established for the following purposes: provide good government to residents, develop and maintain safe municipalities, provide services, products, and facilities required or allowed by the Towns and Villages Act or any other enactment governing a municipal corporation. By being elected to the Village of Fort Simpson Municipal Council, you are committing yourself to uphold these purposes. As a member of council, your responsibilities will consist of developing and evaluating of plans, policies, and programs for the Village of Fort Simpson, making the bylaws, resolutions, and policies of the Village of Fort Simpson, and ensuring that the powers and duties and functions of the Village of Fort Simpson are appropriately carried out. We will begin by swearing in ceremony by having the mayor take the oath of office. Sean Welly, you've been acclaimed as mayor of the Village of Fort Simpson. Do you wish to take the oath of office?
Yes, I do.
I'll ask you to read the oath of office, and then you'll print your name, sign it to indicate that you are making this oath.
Okay. I, Sean Welly, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trust placed in me as mayor for the Village of Fort Simpson. And I will just sign my name.
This has been declared before me at the Village of Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories, this first day of November 2000. Make it official with all the due.
Bells and whistles. Thank you, John. Thank you. Okay.
You, Rosemary Gill, wish to be swear the oath of office.
Okay.
I'll ask you to read the oath of office.
I, Rosemary Gill, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts placed in me as a councillor for the Village of Fort Simpson.
Okay. You print your name and then sign it. was declared before me this first day of November. So you, Rosemary Gill, have been sworn in as a councillor of the village of Fort Simpson. Congratulations. Councillor Zahn, do you wish to swear the office, the oath of office?
Yes, I do.
I ask you to read the oath of office.
I, Muaz Hassan, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, and to the best of my skills and knowledge execute the power and the trust placed in me as a councillor for the village of Fort Simpson.
This has been duly declared before me in the village of Fort Simpson this first day of November. Congratulations, Councillor Hassan. You've now been sworn in as a councillor for the village of Fort Simpson.
Thank you.
Councillor James Tetzel, you have been elected. You wish to swear the oath of office. Did you read the oath?
I, James Tetso, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust placed in me as a councillor for the village of Fort Simpson.
If you print your name and then sign. Councillor Tetzel, you have been sworn in as the councillor for the village of Fort Simpson. Congratulations. Take a seat. Councillor Fontaine, you have been elected to the council of the village of Fort Simpson. Do you wish to take the oath of office?
I do.
I ask you to read the oath of office.
I, Troy Belfontaine, do sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust placed in me as a councillor for the village of Fort Simpson.
I ask you to print your name and then sign. It's been declared before me this first day of November. Councillor Tetzel, you have been sworn in as councillor to the village of Fort Simpson. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I thought I heard something wrong there.
Yeah.
This happens when you get old. Councillor Christensen, you've been elected into the council of the village of Fort Simpson. Do you wish to take the oath of office?
Yes, I do.
I'll ask you to read the oath of office.
I, Carl Christensen, Christensen, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute powers and trust placed in me as councillor of the Village of Fort.
This has been signed and declared before me this first day of November 2021. Councillor Christensen, you have been sworn in as a member of the village council. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we got two.
Well, we still have one more.
Do we?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Do you,
Mine's
Councillor?
not.
Oh,
I don't need to get started.
You wish to swear the oath of office?
Okay. I, Liza McPherson, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly, faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust placed in me as a councillor for the Village of Fort Simpson.
Duly declared and signed before me this first day of November. Councillor McPherson, you've been sworn in as a councillor of the Village of Fort Simpson. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you very much, John, for doing those official duties, and thank you, councilors now, for swearing in yourselves.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Now that the officialdoms are over there, we'll call our meeting to order at 7:19. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Bellefontaine, seconded by Councillor McPherson, that council adopts the agenda of regular meeting RM 21-2021 as presented, unless anyone has any amendments to make or suggestions for change. All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favor of adopting the agenda? Okay, I've got 6 in favor, none against. Motion's carried, and we've adopted this agenda. Are there any declarations of interest by any of the councillors in any of the items they see on the agenda this evening so far? All right, if something were to pop up later, you can always declare at that time. And by declaration of interest, we mean a financial interest in any of the items. So I've, on 6, moving along, I've got a motion on councillor absences, moved by Councillor Bellefontaine and seconded by, is this James's signature?
I believe that's mine.
Okay, by Councillor Tetzel.
That might have been mine. Is it a blue pen?
It's blue.
Uh,
Yeah, that's Councillor Christensen. Okay. Okay.
sorry, I'll put my initials on.
Okay. And so the motion reads that council excuse councillors Browning. Well, we actually, this isn't gonna happen because
Yeah,
they aren't
they're-
counselors yet.
Yeah.
So, but normally this would be the item where if they had been sworn in and were absent, as long as they'd notified us of their absence and the reason why they couldn't make it, we'd be excusing them, but no need to do that. All right, item 7, delegations. We do not have any delegations this evening. Sometimes we do have RCMP or other special delegations will come in, give us a report, or just make a statement to the council on some issue they want to make us aware of. Item 8, adoption of the minutes. And we have 3 sets of minutes that we're looking to adopt this evening. The first one, and I actually don't have the,
I don't have the adoption of minutes.
I don't have those. I could write them out if,
I'll just get a blank motion.
sure, okay, and then we'll do it on the fly.
Apologies.
No problem. Okay. Just take me a second to write these out.
I do want to put them all on one motion.
I guess we could,
Just on 3 lines.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me just put it here. Okay, I'll just read the motion would read, and then I'll ask for a mover and seconder. The council approved the minutes of regular meeting RM 2021 of October 14, 2021. Committee of the whole meeting minutes COW 10-2021 of October 12, 2021. And the regular meeting minutes of RM 20-2021 of October 18, 2021. So we'll approve all 3 sets of minutes at once if there's no objection, and I get a mover and a seconder. Mover, Councillor Hassan. Seconder, okay, Councillor Christensen. So that was the motion. Does anybody want to speak to any of these minutes? Is there, yes, Councillor Gill?
There is a spelling error under item number 14 in October the 18th.
Item 14 in the first set?
Minutes. Item number 14. I think there's just a spelling error at the end of the first bullet. It says vested. Should it be just vested? Which date?
Which set of minutes is it?
It says October 18th.
Oh, sorry.
18, the last set. Yeah.
In the first bullet point of 14, the last word.
Everyone the best. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Okay.
And number 16. For the adjournment, there were 2 movers, no seconder.
Oh, it's just down on the next page. It went down below the next,
Maybe not.
No, it's two movers.
Okay.
Moved by, second by.
Yeah, we didn't put the seconder on that one. Where is it?
Yeah, there was a mistake. It's moved by.
Moved by Councilor Bellefontaine, seconded by Councilor Hassan.
Yeah, so that was two questions.
I have I wasn't at the October 18th. Are you done? Sorry. Oh, sorry. I just, that item of the federal housing, I noticed there's no decision made on that yet, eh? On the rental of the federal housing units. You just asked what direction on the 11 new business?
I think that it wasn't, if I remember correctly, it wasn't very clear, it wasn't completely clear, but my understanding is that the council were happy for administration to move forward with it.
Yeah, there was no formal resolution made on that.
Yeah, because it's just, like, I think if those are the federal units that we're also looking at our office, maybe the two organizations can talk.
Okay.
Yeah, just so there's no conflict.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
That's,
I'll give you a call tomorrow.
yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to clear up.
Okay.
Amazing.
So if that's all the changes that need to be made, they will be made. And I'll change the motion with the approval of the mover and seconder to say as amended. So we'll approve as amended according to the directions given there. And if I can see a show of hands on all three sets to approve. Okay, 6 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. Yeah. All right, so next item, mayor reports. I don't really have a report to make, other than I'm just happy to see that our new council is convened and underway. And I think that it's going to be a very positive council. We've got lots to look at, lots of work to do. I know I read some of your comments during the election and things you wanted to look at, and there'll be lots of time to do that. We'll have our councilor orientation soon, as quickly as the other two councilors that were elected get sworn in, and we'll be looking at some of the bigger picture items that councilors need to know about, which are our strategic plan, capital plan. It's touched on a little bit here with the ISIP funding and the monies that are available for infrastructure. You know, typically we look at the things that council wants this community to look like in 5 or 10 years, and then you start looking at the projects that would be done to achieve those kinds of things. And ISIP is one of those funding sources that can help us do it. So yeah, with that, I just want to say congratulations to everybody, the returning and the new councilors, and I look forward to working with everybody. And I'm sure we'll do a great job for the people of Fort Simpson. With that, I'll turn it over to the SAO for his report.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I'd like to update council on the homeless shelter. We put out a call for expression.
Okay, just 1 minute.
If you are, can you, I don't,
Is this something he will put him in a conflict?
It's not a discussion matter, it's just a report. So there's no
Okay.
discussion on it. If anyone wanted to have any discussion, it would have to be added to the agenda first or at the next meeting, and then you could declare
Or,
interest.
yeah, if council starts to ask questions, which, other than the report, he may leave the room, but we'll leave that up to Councilor Hassan. Right now, it's just a report, so it's fine.
So sometimes during my report, sometimes some questions may arise out of it. If it's minor issues, it's not a big deal, but if it's a major issue that needs discussion, it really should be an agenda item.
Still, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
It's up to you.
I'm gonna leave the room. I don't want to even.
Okay, for this part, go ahead.
Thank you.
So, yeah, as I said, I'd like to update council on the homeless shelter. We put out an expression of interest to see if there's any other buildings in town where the building owner would like to use their building as a shelter. Then no other interest came back apart from the current building owner where the shelter is operating right now. So as such, we'll continue to manage the shelter. The village will continue to run and manage the shelter in its current location on a month-to-month basis. We're in the process of hiring staff, and we're trying to get open and fully functional as soon as possible. I'd like to point out that it is on a month-to-month basis. We haven't committed long-term. So if councillors would like to bring this up for discussion at a later date, just know that there is no commitment been made as of yet. We are in the process of applying to the Department of Infrastructure and their Community Access Program for funding for new streetlights. Yeah,
Mars can come up.
oh, sorry, yeah, thanks. I'll just forget about that.
Can you pass me that, some of that stuff for the hands? Thanks.
Chase them down the street.
As I was saying, we're in the process of applying for funding for new streetlights, the same program we used last year for the new streetlights on Deno Drive access road, or 4 Mile access road. The main area we're looking at is from Main Street downhill towards the Papal site, along beside the campground and around to the dog park. There's also a few other areas around town up in Wild Rose, and so we feel confident that we'll get funding approved for that. We'll keep you updated. The NWTAC.
Oh, can I ask one question on that? Just
Yeah.
maybe a comment.
Yeah.
But the street lights where they demolished the 4 homes down by the paper grounds. What's going to happen with those street lights? I just pose that as a question to council because that street isn't going to be used anymore. There probably are a few street lights there. Maybe some of those could be relocated too. I'm not sure.
More streetlights by the houses. I'll look into that. Just on that as well, if any councillors have any areas in particular in mind that they notice are particularly dark, just shoot me an email or come see me, let me know. NWTAC, that's the Association of Communities, is applying to the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund on behalf of 29 NWT communities, Fort Simpson being one of them, to implement our community wildfire protection plan. This will be mostly fuel management activities such as expanding fire breaks. They're asking for $20 million over a 10-year timeline. If successful, 100% of the costs will be covered. So there'll be no cost to the village whatsoever. And that's all I have for today.
Okay. And we're doing about $100,000 worth of work around the Wild Rose subdivision.
Just under, yeah.
Yeah, so if they're getting $2 million a year for 10 years to make 20, and dividing it amongst 29 communities, it's like each one would get probably less than 100.
I understood that, we had a meeting with SAOs from the various communities and with ENR and NGAC. My understanding is that, the money could be spent much sooner, so we could potentially get it and spend it in a year or 2 or 3 years, but it would be a 10-year max timeline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it'd be better to do as much as you can now
Exactly.
rather than a little bit every year.
Our community wildfire protection plan, it is on our website, so you can have a look at it there. But just as an example, that fire break that was done a few years back at Wild Rose, I believe it's 40 meters wide. And part of it, I think, wasn't quite finished. So one of the things highlighted in our plan would be to finish that fire break, but also widen it to 100 meters. So it'd be quite a big change from the 40 meters wide it currently is.
Anybody have a question, just raise your hands. I'll recognize you. That's normally how it goes. Yes,
So
Councilor
I heard
Christensen.
there's a community plan coming out. Are we gonna accommodate for the community plan with the fire breaks? Like planning for the future? Or are we gonna just keep plowing the same area
For the, are we talking?
for this wildfire plan?
Well, we have, so community plan is different than this was specific wildfire protection plan that ENR, I believe it was ENR, did a few years ago.
Yep.
And that outlines certain specific things like this, like the fire break and like the other fire break we're working on this year.
Yep.
I don't know that a community plan would necessarily deal with fire breaks. I think it may be an element of it.
I'm just wondering, could we possibly save some of that money for the future community plan to accommodate for new additional fire breaks if needed?
Yeah, like you're bringing up a good point. I think that any community plan, any new subdivision, you have to consider the fire risks and hazards in the area and what might have to be done to mitigate. So that becomes part of the community
Yeah,
plan
just-
in a sense.
Kind of future planning,
Yeah.
just so we're not just throwing all this money at the same stuff constantly,
And then not having any
and
money
then not
available,
having any money left over for
future plans.
future plans.
So yeah, that's a
don't-
good point.
Yeah, it is a good point. I don't know how flexible it is. I know that we had discussed other ways that we could potentially spend this money, such as different kinds of infrastructure for fire protection. But one of the conditions was that it has to be shovel ready, and our protection wildfire protection plans are in place. So that work is shovel ready.
Okay.
So assuming it's approved, which they feel fairly confident about, but assuming it's approved, I don't know yet what kind of flexibility we'll have.
Okay.
If we'll have to stick with exactly what's in our plan, or if we'll be able to adapt. So that's something we'll have to wait and see.
And another thing is the timber, the wood that's produced from clearing that, is it available to the public?
Again, it would depend on when we get to that work. I would hope so, but going by the work that we're doing this year around Wild Rose, that lumber will all be stacked in a couple of different spots for community members to take.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's in an accessible spot where the landowner can't block access to it or anything like that.
That was one of the conditions on the contract, was that it would have to be made available where the public can access.
Perfect.
All right. Any other questions for the SAO on his report? Okay, Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to ask about if you have any updates about the greenhouse with the DDEC. What happened? That program which was started with the DFN, then DFN didn't do it with them, and they were looking for another partner to have the project going. And I don't know what happened. If you have any information about this, thank you.
I did have a few conversations with the superintendent of DDEC and also with the community garden who seems very interested in being part of the project. I know the superintendent was out of town a little bit. We played phone tag a couple of times. I had suggested he and the community garden speak to see if they could partner on it. And that's all I have right now. I don't have any more updates. I can touch base with him again and see if there's.
I actually know of an individual who is working towards that, and I might be able to reach out.
Okay.
Patrick Scott was spearheading that when he was with DFN.
Yeah, like he's not with DFN anymore in
he's
a
not,
way,
no.
so because it was
In fact, Patrick Scott is the one who came to the council here and started this project with the village.
Right.
And we even from the village here, we agreed to give them a lot. And there is other things like how we're gonna get the water there, the draining and everything. That was discussed. But later, they did not start. And as the TDEC's funding is very limited, they have very short time right now. So if we don't find any organization, they are requesting either an organization that should be doing that project, and they return back the money to the DDC.
Right.
So right now the money is in like very short term. If we don't get use of it for the community, it will go back. So that's the question. As the faster they do it, the better. So. And it's an ongoing project. Like this project is not going to be ending right now. I don't remember the amount of the money. I think it's like 100,000, but it would be an annual funding for that project. And I don't want that project to see that project get away from the community. And it will be in all the region.
Yeah.
So there will be other funding for all the other communities, which is not our responsibility here, but still we want to see funding to come to the region that will create at least a job or two jobs, and it's a greenhouse, so people can have better better plantation, and it's a good project. So they have a short period of time. If you can contact them and speed them so they can start it, that would be really good. In addition to that, why the village is part of it, because if they decide to do wherever they want to do it, water will be an issue, and other things that will be an issue. That's why I asked the request the SAO. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor San, and Councillor Christensen again.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. I think that would be more of a private enterprise because that's a money-making thing. Other than us making the land available, I think that private enterprise should be responsible for hooking up that water and providing all that kind of stuff.
In fact, it's sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
In fact, it's
Councillor
an
San.
education, and it's part of the education system. So there is no any profit. It's not for profit. It's an activity that's part of the education in the region here.
So it's not a large-scale greenhouse. It's just a tiny little greenhouse.
Which can the kids can the students can get use of it, and the school can get use of it, plus the community. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's not, I guess that's the thing, it's not really our project, right? It's, maybe we'd be the flow-through organization or something, being asked to administer the funds, but it's like this proposal's been put together and given to the community as an opportunity, but the funding and the people who wrote the proposal are the education department, the DFN.
I just would like to point out that, I'll touch base with DDEC. We'll get more information before we make any kind of commitment. It'll come back to council for a resolution.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, just want to make sure everyone's good with that. Then we'll go to tabled items and old business. There is none. Committee minutes and recommendations, there are none. New business, okay, under 12A, deputy mayor appointment. Now, the way that goes is, I'll read you a section here from Cities, Towns, and Villages Act, section 39. Council, on the recommendation of the mayor, may appoint a councillor to be the deputy mayor. So the mayor recommends, and you may appoint. Now, I've taken the liberty of asking Councillor Gill if she would be the deputy mayor, and she has said she would be willing to do that. But that would be my recommendation to council. I do have a motion in front of me here, moved by Councillor Bellefontaine and seconded by Councillor James Tetzel, that council appoint Councillor Rosemary Gill as deputy mayor of the village of Fort Simpson. So we've got a tabled, or a motion on the table, and we can have a discussion, or we can just have a vote. Does everybody understand how this process? Yes.
Question.
Okay, so she's calling questions. She just wants to have a vote. All right, all those in favor? All right, 6 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. So congratulations to the new deputy mayor. All right, and 12B, signing authority. Did you want to speak to that, SAO clerk?
Sure. So in the past, well, generally for signing checks or anything like that, we'll have one member of administration, usually myself, and one council member signing the checks. Typically, it will be the mayor. In the past, we've had Councillor Marie Lafferty be a signature, and usually the deputy mayor. So what I would suggest is that we add Deputy Mayor Gill and Liza McPherson to be signatures on our account.
Okay, and I've got a motion moved by Councillor, yeah, okay, hold on. Let me just put this on get this motion on the table here. A motion moved by Councillor Bellefontaine, seconded by Councillor Tetzel, that council authorized Deputy Mayor Rosemary Gill and Councillor Liza McPherson to hold signing authority for the village of Fort Simpson on behalf of the municipal council. Okay, so go ahead. What was your
Oh, no, I
comment?
was just voting yes.
Oh, you.
I jumped the gun, I
Oh, I
apologize.
thought you had a question, okay. Sure, does anybody have any comments or questions on that? Okay, then show of hands, all in favor? Okay, 6 in favor, none against, motion's carried. Okay, while we are under new business, does anybody have any new business that they want to bring onto the agenda? Make a motion, have it seconded. Typically, we do that at the beginning of the meeting when we set the agenda, but it just so that people know there's other opportunities during the meeting to bring up topics if something's come to mind. Okay. Then moving on, 13 bylaws. We don't have any items under bylaws tonight. Correspondence and information. Well, you got some information mostly related to your own counselor orientation packages and things like that, but no letters from residents or anything like that this week. And then council matters and concerns, where we go around the table and councilors can just speak to any issue that they want to bring up. It's not necessarily something that is going to be officially acted on, but it could be taken into consideration by the SAO. Just remember that when you bring it up this way, it's not an official direction to the SAO to do anything. Because sometimes in the past, councilors will be disappointed that, well, I mentioned this and it's been a month, why hasn't something happened? Well, sometimes due to operational constraints or, priorities, the SAO will be doing other things, or perhaps that request just might not be in line with general plans. But sometimes if you feel strong enough, you should be bringing it forth as a motion and getting it seconded and actually making it official if you really want something to go ahead like that. Other than that, this is just kind of bringing up points and topics that are of concern. And I'll start with Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one issue, which is a few days ago I was walking. In fact, the mayor was part of even the walk around the island. Then we stopped at the old cemetery, and I noticed that honestly, it's kind of like even the names of the people who are buried there is fading away, and it's kind of in a bad shape. I don't know if we should bring this next time. I know it's a big topic that the LKFN and the Métis might be part of that, because it's a historical area that those people are being buried there, and there are a lot of graves there. So how are we going to take care of that site? So it's kind of a very bushy, and there's like 100-year-old tree in the middle of one of the graves. And I feel that it's our responsibility to take care at least of that site. And I don't know if I should bring it next time as a resolution or how it works. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe something to be thinking about. And that's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Hassan.
Congratulations, everyone.
And Councillor McPherson, did you have any council issues or concerns?
Pretty much the same concern that Councillor Hassan had. Is I know that the village does keep the plots and knows exactly where each person has been buried, and so there's an area to start with. At least we know, and then like we've been talking about it at our office, and just to fix it up. And so this is something that we can work as a community on. So that's all I have.
I'd just like to point out that I know our staff is very cautious when it comes to going near anyone's actual grave, and they like that, keep that up,
Yeah.
leave that to the family. So
Yeah. So so it's just something I think that we have to plan out to
yeah, it's,
good communication.
I think good communication with the band, but
Yeah.
you just need to be careful.
Yeah, and just make a plan, pick a day, and say, okay, this is the day we're going to do it. Families can come together and view, and I think it'd be a nice project in the springtime.
As long as we're providing the tools and stuff like
Yeah.
that, so people
Yeah.
can do the maintenance.
Mhm.
Okay. And any other issues, Councillor McPherson?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Christensen, any councillor issues or concerns?
No concerns or issues right now, just want to say congratulations, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Gill, any councillor issues or concerns?
I just have questions.
Okay.
I'm wondering about the budget, and will we be able to see the budget? I understand in the minutes it said, I think October 4th was the first budget meeting or something. So it's not, it hasn't been passed, eh?
Now, next budget meeting is next Monday,
Okay.
so we'll,
Can we show them the budget at the committee meeting?
we'll
Next
have the
committee?
we'll have the budget out to you guys during the week. And then, if there's any, try and get it out earlier rather than later in the week. So if there's any questions or you don't understand anything, you can give me a call or email or sit down with me. And it'll give you some time to have a think about it. And then hopefully next Monday we'll be able to have some good discussion on it. And our last budget meeting will be December. And so with the hope of having it passed in December.
And the other thing is committees of the council, how are they
Allocated?
formed? Are they,
Yeah.
when it's needed, or is it done right away at the beginning of the term?
I think at our next committee meeting, we'll recommend who's to be on which committees, and the very next meeting will appoint to the committees. Normally, we have 3 or 4 councillors on each committee. The mayor is kind of ex officio, which means, I can sit in on any committee. Doesn't mean I have to be at every committee meeting, but yeah, there's usually enough committees that you would be on maybe about 3 different committees. And the ones you would have more interest in, hopefully. That way it brings your expertise to that committee. The council could ask for non-voting committee members to be invited to participate in any proceedings at even ad hoc or even more regular basis, if you thought that that kind of expertise was something that would be useful. There's nothing that says we can't do that. And as a matter of fact, it might be good to do that. But usually leave that up to the committee chair. And each committee will appoint its own chair. That committee chair will be in charge of actually calling committee meetings for their own committee. So the council doesn't interfere in the individual committee's work. We do have committees of the whole every second Monday of the month. And that's for a more general discussion on items which would be of concern to everybody, probably equally. But once there's more detailed work to be done and maybe a recommendation to come back to council, we'll kind of let that work be happening with the committee.
Okay. So are
Our
there,
next committee meeting, we'll have a list of the committees and ask for names.
and do each of these committees have terms of reference?
They do, yeah, we do have. And so we'll look at those two. It just seemed like a bit much to have it tonight because, yeah, with the swearing in and everything, and a couple of councilors aren't here and what have you, but we'll try to get them as well, the information so that they can put forth their names into the committees that they think would be good for themselves.
Okay. And I noticed in the minutes that there was, you're looking at hiring a wellness coordinator or establishing a wellness coordinator.
We're looking into that, yeah.
Now, I was wondering if we just hire someone in a more expanded position, because there are wellness coordinators in other organizations, right? We basically, there's no coordination between the various different groups in the community. If we had a community coordinator, that would bring different interest groups together to work on certain issues that's stated in our community plan. Things could get done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah, SAO Corrigan, go ahead.
So, one of the reasons, because like you said, there are wellness coordinators, and, a common problem, like you mentioned, is that there's a lack of communication. One of the reasons I wanted to hire a wellness coordinator was more about coordinating with those other groups, like coordinating with DFN, LKFN, Department of Health Social Services, and look at what can we do together.
Yes.
Typically, it's not really wellness isn't something that the village has been involved in the past. I see this as a temporary solution that may or may not last longer. But it really was kicked off from the discussions we had with the Red Cross and the wellness program that's coming out of that. So that's where we were. Just on another point as well, I didn't mention this in my essay report today. I think I've mentioned it previously though. We're also hiring a recreation programming coordinator. So one of the first things I said to the new hire is that we need to coordinate with the band, with Open Doors, with health, with DFN, and we need to be working together and looking at where the gaps are, where the needs are, and we don't want to be duplicating resources. We want to be filling the gaps and looking at our community as a whole. So totally, I'm absolutely on the same page there.
Community coordinator,
Yeah.
like, for example, the federal housing. That the coordinator could pull all the interested groups together and,
Yeah.
a lot of those kinds of specific issues can be addressed quickly and
Yeah.
with all parties. you know,
Yes, we
that
don't
are
have
concerned.
staff that can really just be allocated to do certain project work. And if this health and wellness project starts up, there'll be expectations that, we'll be involved. There'll be work we have to do, along with First Nations and other community members, and working with the Red Cross, supporting what they're doing. So I see it as almost like a project person to assist village's side to contribute to the overall project. Otherwise, these things like what you just said, coordinating on the housing front and things like that, it just becomes another thing that gets dropped in the lap of the SAO, and it can just be overwhelming, right? It becomes a thing, the reason why SAOs don't like more and more projects. So, and this project, the health and wellness, it is fairly well funded, both through the United Way, Red Cross itself. So there seems to be a willingness to support the hiring of a person. The Red Cross is kind of aware of what we're doing too. And so hopefully keeping in touch with all the other stakeholders who are involved with the project, it'll be done in the right way. It's the right job.
Oh, sorry, if it's job creation, could you not access the small communities funding?
Yeah,
The ECE money?
it's a new position, and we may well do that. We have a number of positions that we're hoping to draw from that program this year. So I think we'll get our fair share of that money either way, whether it's for this position or other positions.
Okay, well, those are good questions. Any other ones?
It also mentioned, and this probably should have fitted under 10, but, item number 10, but, flood donations, and that, then it was gonna go to the next council meeting.
Right. A report. Was that what? SAO Corrigan, go ahead.
Yeah, so there was some money that was donated to the village. I don't have the number off the top of my head. There was some money that has yet to be spent. And so that's another of the many discussions that we need to have is what to do and what to spend that money on. We'll get it on the agenda, not next meeting, possibly the meeting after, but I will get some information as far as the actual numbers go, and I'll send that to you guys, and you guys can give it some thought.
Is that targeting victims of the flood, or is it targeting infrastructure, or?
There's no, absolutely no restrictions or guidance whatsoever.
Grave site. Grave site.
So that I know of.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, so.
that's actually a good idea. The
Mhm.
health and wellness of the community depends on having, the elders in the graveyard taken care of.
But you know that I've seen other cemeteries where they have iron,
Gates.
gates and fencing, very beautiful,
Mhm.
that could be an upgrade.
And was there a proposal, SAO Corrigan, that you were going to put into the United Way based on some discussions that were had? We've gone over a couple of counselors. I know Councillor Hassan, myself, yourself, and suggestions on how to use some of their remaining funds. I know they had mentioned they had $75,000 yet to spend, and they were asking for suggestions, some of which I think SAO was going to put together into a bit of a formal proposal to them.
well, one of them was we plan to host an event, sort of like 6 months since the flood recognition, where we have a feast and entertainment for children and live music for adults. we discussed this and we had planned it for November. And then, more recently, we thought it might be best to wait till March because of COVID and new restrictions. And so one of the things United Way had talked about doing was paying for the food for that event, and possibly the performer.
Right. And I guess there was a donation possibly to the school food program,
Yeah, the $5,000.
the school, the hamper program through the Christmas, that's a day show,
The
Friendship Center.
They're going to reach out to the Friendship Center.
Yeah, directly,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're just suggestions. I mean, we're not telling them what to do, but they were asking for ideas and things. Somewhat flood-connected relief, going back to the community, and we gave them some that time. But yeah, this 5,000, is it, that we hold directly?
Oh, it's more than that.
Hmm.
I don't want to say a number because I may be wrong, but I'll find out and I'll
Okay.
shoot everyone an email.
Yeah. For me, myself, I have still some questions to ask of some organizations that collected on behalf of the village and Jean Marie. Some organizations pretty forthcoming on what they did with their money, and some weren't. So I'm looking into that a little bit. I think that was something that happened in a hurry. When you obviously can't tell people not to collect for you, but we didn't authorize anybody to do it. So we can't exactly expect them to report back to us either. But this is something to think about in the future is when you've got people out there collecting, it might be better to have it a little bit more coordinated with us, as in this is an officially sanctioned, and that might even help them too, to collect more. But that way we have more control over what ends up happening with the money. I think that the groups that have collected, by and large, have done great, and that they've distributed the money and actually been fairly transparent. But there's at least one case I know where I haven't heard of what happened to the money, and I certainly would be interested to know. And if it hasn't been spent, perhaps we have some good ideas around the table for where it could go. Because it's getting a little late in the game now for holding back on the money. Okay, any more thoughts or concerns?
No, just that, and, like the previous counselors for their commitment and hard work. And I'm looking forward to working collaboratively with the rest, the new counselor.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And Councillor Tetzel, any councillor issues or concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a big one for me is food sustainability issues in the region, I guess you could say, but also within our community. Rising costs of access to healthy food, it's unattainable for a lot of people. Off-island development is another big one for me. Climate impacts here are very, very real. I see it on the land very often, and I just be nice to see if we can mitigate those issues and working together. But those are the most significant issues that I see.
And those are going to touch on areas like community planning, areas like agricultural areas identified. We had a study done on slope riverbank erosion, which I know certainly has something to do with climate change. That's where do we put our infrastructure in the future, and how do we design our development plan to accommodate for building down on the island, now that we know how high the water can really go and what the impacts can be. So yeah, these are all, I think, concerns that are going to translate into action here at the council. Concrete ways of doing it through those kind of vehicles. Yeah. And on your food security as well, the council did have discussions with, is it, Indigenous Canada, Northern Affairs, what's the acronym for
Isn't that
that?
Nutrition North that we also reached
That's the
out to?
Nutrition North program.
Mm.
We asked
Oh, yeah.
people working in the department, we had a meeting with them. There was 3 or 4 of them that we met with, that councilors met. I think the chief was there too. But the whole discussion was around the idea that it seemed like we did qualify, at least as good as one of the other northern communities that was recently added. And they did say that, all right, it looks on the face of it that you would qualify under this new criteria. So they were going to look at it and make a recommendation, have it on the desk of the minister as soon as the new government went to work. Well, they've just been sworn in, so now it's time to follow that up. And although it's stores that actually apply to it, the community has to be designated as a community that can qualify. So that's what we need to hear, and then stores can apply, and we can see those little subsidy signs on our food, which will help in some cases, I think. Because as you say, everything, supply chain issues, inflation, labor shortages down south, and what have you. We're at the end of a long supply chain, and I've noticed food is going up quite a bit. It's getting even harder to find certain kinds of food. It's not as regularly on the shelves as you'd like. So there's just a lot of concerns there.
The community of Delaney is planning a cultural food facility now. And, that's something I'd like to see one day in the community. I don't know how we can get there, but I'd like to kind of do some looking into that.
Like a food bank?
It's food processing.
It's
okay.
it's like
And
a
you
country
did
food
Okay.
processing facility.
Growing,
Yeah,
country foods, okay.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
Inuvik has one.
I'm not sure if they
Yeah.
do, but
Yeah,
I know.
I did a tour. And
Okay,
and I think Delaney's is the same concept,
right.
so.
And I'm not sure about a food program where, I know there's some different things going on in the community, like there's Meals on Wheels for Elders, there's the program that the band sponsors,
Soup kitchen.
the Soup Kitchen. I think you also have some harvested food that you collect and distribute, right?
Mhm.
And so there's different things. There's nothing official like a place where it's almost like a little store where people can go and just get food. We haven't developed that here. There's actually money for those kinds of things too.
Yeah.
But I think, we know that there's a certain amount of low-income people here that are doing without certain foods, and because health and wellness actually gets right into that. Like if you haven't got the right kind of food to be healthy, you can try to think healthy, but if you can't eat healthy, that's not going to happen, right? So these are all connected. It's all stuff to be looked at. I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, and Councilor Belfontaine, do you have any councilor issues or concerns?
I guess everybody talking about the graveyard kind of brought back. I know last year they were looking at, we even had some drawings of and some pictures of things that we were thinking of building down there. I know that COVID and then the flood, and there's been things that held it up. And I know Kevin and Jenny were both talking about doing almost like a map that people could go online and look where all the different grave sites are, and families could link information and stuff, which I thought was really cool. And that would be nice to see if we can work on that in the warmer weather. But then I'm wondering too, with flooding, if there's a way we could do it that it's not going to get damaged. I think that'll need a little bit of revision maybe to what we had before. It looked really good, and I think people would love to see that, especially after what happened with the flood and a lot of the damage that happened. Other than that, I welcome everybody, and I'm really excited. I liked reading everybody's things they wrote online because I think it shows people have a lot of good ideas. And I know when I first started out, I was very quiet. I didn't really talk a lot. I didn't share my ideas. But even if you don't want to just come right out and make a motion, you could bring it up in a discussion like this, and then maybe ask somebody that's been around longer if they have any ideas on how you could word your motion or something, because then I know sometimes you get on and there's all these big ideas, but if you wait, sometimes it's like nothing happens and nothing happens. But it's good to get those ideas out and work on them, because that's what people voted for. They want to see those things happen. And they obviously like the things you said. So definitely feel free to reach out to any of us and bring up your ideas and stuff, because I think that'll be really good for us moving forward, sharing all the new stuff.
Of course, with the one big proviso that everything costs money, and you always have to keep an eye on the budget that Deputy Mayor mentioned there. So, I mean, there's funding sources and ways of getting things done. And if it's important to the community, we earmark it. We say that's something we want, and we try to get it, right? We might develop the proposal or at least the plans and wait for the money. But it's, nothing happens unless we move it forward. So yes, with that, I'd like to bring up the last motion of the evening. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Bellefontaine, seconded by Councillor Tetso, that council adjourn the regular meeting RM21-2021 at 8:18 p.m. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none against, okay? And that's our meeting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And it's a little less